On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the top 5 beginner tips. My first tip is don't cheap out. Now, this can be for a variety of reasons, but mainly I'm speaking on parts. A lot of times new reefers are excited, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. They're nervous about the hobby, so they buy the cheapest stuff, usually Petco or PetSmart type of deals. Not to say that they don't have good products, but if you start with a $20 power head, you're eventually going to go up to these, the $350 power heads, and you're just going to keep going up and up and wasting money. And it might have been better from the start to buy something that costs a little more. That way you don't have to upgrade, and you're also getting the reliability that companies like Ecotech and Neptune also have. My next tip would be to buy the biggest tank that you can afford. Now, behind me, I have a 250 gallon. I did not start that way. When I started with a 29 gallon tank. Had 2 little clowns, a little bit of live rock, and I thought it was awesome. But then got to looking, got on the forums, started wanting bigger and better fish. Can't have yellow tangs in a 29 gallon. So eventually I upgraded to a 55 high, and that tank satisfied me for about 5 months. And then I wanted more fish. I had a yellow tang. I had a Milenar Cerassus and 2 clowns, and it was getting a little overcrowded. The yellow tang was a little more nervous, a little more shy, so I eventually upgraded to a 90 gallon. Now, a 90 gallon is a pretty good starter size, I would say. I would say between 90 and 125 is a good size. You can get the fish you want. You have the room to really create a cool aquascape, and you're able to, get a sump going and really create more of a stable system. The bigger the system, usually the more stable it becomes. And I know it's hard to start something and go out and buy a 125 or a 90, but if you're able to and you have the funds, it's definitely better to start with something a little bigger and a little more manageable. Quarantine. But in all seriousness, quarantining from the start is an important learning step and an important piece to keeping and eventually keeping big reefs like this. Quarantining your fish is very important for the fish health. Right away, you'll learn and you'll see if you start off at local pet stores and pet shops, you'll see ick, white spot on the fish. It looks like little white sprinkles or snowflakes on their body. Sometimes it's more crystal, it's a little bit invisible, but either way, ick can be a killer. On my last tank, my 180, got excited, threw a bunch of fish in from a store that I thought did not have any ick, found out they were only treating with copper when they came in, not a full quarantine process. Most stores won't do a quarantine process because it's not cost effective, and honestly you can't blame them. To do a 30-day quarantine and then sell a fish and only make $10, $12, not a lot of profit there. So I would say start off with your tank like I recommended and a small quarantine. Quarantine your fish right at the same time you start your cycle. 30 days when your fish are done, probably clownfish, something small, they'll be ready to go right in the tank. It's a really good setup, and I think it'll really help your tank out. The second step, I would say, is a coral quarantine. Now, this becomes more of a long-term type of deal. If you start off with something small, or even a 90 or a 75, you'll eventually max out the fish pretty quickly. 7, 8, 9 fish, you're already there. Coral quarantine, corals on the other hand, you don't really have a max. You can fit as many as you can fit, and when they overgrow and sting each other, you have a good and a bad type of problem. So honestly, coral quarantine, in my opinion, is the most important. There's a lot of pests that can come in on corals. I think corals are known that they can possibly even carry ick on their frag plugs. I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't go by what I'm saying on that. I would usually base it on science. I believe that I think they're called theronts, can actually attach to the frag plug. Possibly not. But either way, quarantining is definitely the way to go. On my 180, again, got excited, went to Reefapalooza, made a mistake. I should not have just bought 16 frags. I did dip them. Dipping is good, but quarantining is the way to go, unless it's from a very reputable seller. In my opinion, there's a few sellers that I would just dip and don't necessarily do a quarantine for, but I still advocate for full quarantine for all corals and all fish all the time. At minimum, if you don't have the resources, which is a facade, because a quarantine tank can be proven, is proven, and can be set up for less than $100. And if you can even get donated some supplies, you can do it under $50, I imagine. I mean, $1 per gallon sale, you only need a little heater, a little filter, some food, just a few basic things. Ammonia alert badge, that's like $2, $3. So yeah, there's no reason not to quarantine. My next tip is to buy from reputable sellers. Now this is hard because people on Reef to Reef, you don't know them, they have cool looking coral, you don't know what you're buying. In some cases that's okay, and this goes back to my previous point that you're okay buying most coral as long as you quarantine them. I mean, if it looks destroyed and you can obviously see red bugs, it'd be very disadvantageous to your reef tank to pick up a red bug infested acro. But if it's something you like and you really want to get it and you're willing to test it out, I would say it's okay. But personally, I would stick with reputable sellers. Your local fish store, if you go in there every day or every once a week and you see the same coral looking good, thriving, it's healthy, polyps are out, tentacles are out, pick it up, quarantine it if it looks good. Some guys that I personally buy from, Battle Corals, always had good luck with Adam. Got a couple battle boxes, really a awesome fun time getting a mystery box full of Acropora. Some other guys, Cornbread, they're a long-standing coral company. Unique Corals, Pieces of the Ocean, all these companies have huge robust systems. Worldwide Corals, all these companies have these massive systems where they're quarantining, they're taking care of coral, and their coral health is their utmost, their highest standard. So personally, those are companies I trust. I still quarantine. You still should dip, you still should quarantine, but with them, you at least have the peace of mind knowing in their systems, they probably don't have acre-eating flatworms and 3,000 gallon systems with 50,000 frags. And that kind of gives me a peace of mind, and I think it should others. But it also allows you to, not put something in your quarantine worrying, oh, am I going to see something really bad? Am I going to see something really disgusting? Most likely not. Not like where, not that Petco is the worst. And in fact, I've seen some of the corals there. They don't look that bad. They usually don't have too many pests on them. But there's some places, some local shops to me, that you can go there and you can see some pests. You can see some bite marks, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is, and their corals are able to survive because they're coming in and coming out quickly. If they sat there for 6 months, you wouldn't see that same type of health. But, all of this goes along with buying reputable sellers. Going with people that you feel and you trust to take care of the coral and give you something that's a healthy coral. My last tip is to take all of this with a grain of salt. Take all opinions with a grain of salt. You will find one way and another way to do every single thing in this hobby. Now, there are a few things that I would say don't take with a grain of salt, like quarantining. There are really no negatives other than a fish maybe dying to quarantining. Quarantining is a process that can save your tank and just promotes healthier lifestyle of a reef tank. Healthy fish, healthy practices that really keep a reef tank alive. The big guys, the guys that have 800 gallons, 1,000 gallons, Joyo, all these guys that have these massive, huge tanks, they don't just dump fish from Petco into their tank. Overall, I would just say, when you hear an opinion from somebody, look at their tank. Ask to see their tank. Ask their experience. If somebody's been in the hobby 20 years, they generally know the right step. They're not steering you wrong. They're steering you in the right direction. There's lots of people on Reef to Reef that are very helpful. If you're not on there, I'd recommend joining. It's free. It's easy. There's no bullying on there. You can ask a stupid question. You can post a picture of an ugly tank. You can show your fish have ick, and there's people there that will help you. They will bully you if you do not quarantine. You must quarantine. And if you show fish with ick, they got to come out. There's no catch-all, magic bottle you can pour in. Unfortunately, it'd be $1 million idea if there was. But unfortunately, there is no catch-all for ick, and a lot of times you will. If you post, oh, my fish is sick, and he looks like he was out in the snow, they're going to tell you one thing, and that's quarantine, or take the fish out, it's going to die. So, to end it all up, these 5 tips are something that I found that would help me out, and things I wish I would have known, going from a 29 to a 55 to a 90 to a 180 to now my 250. And just have fun with it. That's the most important thing. The most important thing is to have fun. It can become stressful, and you can become worried about your fish and worried about your coral, but if you're not having fun, it's not really worth it. This is supposed to be a stress reliever, something fun, a hobby, something to keep you occupied in your meantime, and that's all. Hope you guys have a great day. If you enjoyed today's video, it would really help me out if you liked, subscribe, and most importantly, if you commented what are tips you would give to a new reef keeper. Beginner and old, we all started somewhere.